Hello everyone, my name is Marion with DTM Real Talk Channel. It's the channel that you can tune into, have the ability to listen to the thoughts of others about topics all over the world that touch every one of our lives. Everybody goes through basically the same thing. There is nothing new under the sun. So if you're going through, someone else has already been there. Maybe you can find hope. Maybe it's a pathway that can set you on the right road just by tuning in. So DTM Real Talk, just keeping it real. And if you like it, like us at the bottom, subscribe, and let us know just how we helped you. Just keeping it real. Nothing but love. Good evening. Welcome to DTM Real Talk, and it's a great day. It's a great Sunday afternoon. I hope you guys are enjoying your day, because certainly I am. And I have a very special guest with me today. I guess you'll say all my guests are special, and they are.
I'm very special, though.
Yes. This is, I'm going to let y'all tell me his name, but this is what I call him. I call him Two. So what's your name, young man?
Henry E. White II.
That's why we call him Two.
That's why they call me Two. Yeah.
That is correct. And how do I know him? Well, his mom is a gift from God. She's my big sister. I told y'all, hey.
Yeah.
What can I say? Yeah. So anyway, I asked Two because he's a writer, and he is definitely a writer. And he writes a lot of poems and different things. And it was what was that? A couple of months ago, I was reading some of his writings, and I was like, whoa. You should really write and let the world hear this. So he knows that I'm doing this, DTM Real Talk. And I did not ask him. I was telling him about our last episode. And he said, hey, I want to do that. I want to come on and do that. So here you are. So to introduce yourself and tell the good folks hello.
Thank you, Marion. Appreciate that. It's good to be here. My name's, I said Henry White II. And I'm from Dallas, Texas. Not born here, but raised here, been here for a very, very long time. And, as Marion had alluded to, I love to write. Well, I like writing. There are some people that love to write that just get up and that's there every moment of every day. I'm more of a person that's inspired. So very much on, scenarios, things that happen in life, or the things that kind of give me the impetus to write, good or bad, negative. Sometimes it's just observational. And you had asked about childhood. That's funny because, geez, you want to start trauma. That starts pretty early.
Let's do this. Well, I asked him to tell a little bit about his childhood. So if you could think of some things you'd like to share with the good folks out there.
Oh gosh, what do you, good or bad? I had a really good childhood. As far as home life is concerned. With my parents, as a child, my parents were young parents. They were in their 20s.
Sure.
There's conflict naturally, right, with your parents, but as I've gotten older and being a parent myself, you look back and you realize that your parents are just doing really, and I can honestly say, doing the best that they can. And
they're doing what they know.
they're doing the best they can, right? There really is no manual to raising kids. I know they write books galore about it, but the experience is the experience. There's nothing that really prepares you for it. And they did the best that they could, and they did a good job. I think even if you ask them, I think they would be pleased with the progress that I've made, and as well as my brother as well. So that part of life was good. It was always stable. My parents will be married 50 years on New Year's Eve. So I was blessed to be able to have that stability and to have that model of what marriage, of what relationship, of what family, and around about fifth grade, we really started getting involved in church, right? So all of that nuclear family was the nucleus of me. So that was everything that I saw growing up, how to relate, with your spouse, how to relate with your children, how to deal with, things financially, how to deal with issues with different family. I had the stability. I was blessed to have the stability. And I have a lot of friends, even so, that'll be like, well, you had both your parents around, and they didn't have. And so I don't want to take that for granted.
Right.
Very, very blessed.
Absolutely.
When you look at the outside world, that was a little bit more tenuous for me. As a child, you don't really realize things. I guess probably when I moved into youth and adolescence, it hit me, and it was my skin color. So, my parents worked extremely hard and got us in a nice neighborhood because they want us to have the best education. And it did pay off for my brother and myself, because we're both college graduates, right? My brother is a master's. But in doing so, understanding that weren't very many, hardly any people that looked like us there at that school. And within, I guess you could call it the community, I would say, because we were not very far from where there were more Blacks and there are Hispanics. I mean, we all pretty much kind of grew up together. We played sports together. We played against each other, so on and so forth. But I kind of was always in a no man's land. And I think that also has shaped who I am, as well as what I got from my family, right?
Is
and
it even now too? You're kind of loner even now in my observation. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And if I initiate, too, we'll talk. But if I don't initiate, he's just gonna say hello and how you doing. That's it, and keep it moving.
Yeah, I am a loner. And it does come from that. And I'm discovering that now. When you're living your life, you're just living your life.
Yeah.
And, and I've been going to therapy and being able to unearth some of these things. And that's in other people. A lot of people of color don't do therapy that much. And
let's talk about this. Let's not jump to the therapy. Let's talk about college. And so what are some of the things that you experienced when you're away from parents now? And so you're going through you're in your growth life. You've got the foundation laid, you know what and what not to do. So where are you now? You're in college. So let's talk about that.
So that foundation was laid for me, and I was on that firm foundation for about 2 weeks. And then, I mean, you would have thought
you just went buck wild. Tell the truth.
You would have thought that I was raised by wolves.
I already know.
And
the good folks need to know. This is what the good folks need to know. Your mom and dad go set the foundation, and then it's about choices, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're in college. So share with the good folks. Beautiful foundation. Hey.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a feeling out. I mean, it goes back to childhood of the never fitting in with the white kids and never being Black enough for the Black kids, and then going off to college, gave you an opportunity to pretty much just reinvent yourself, right? I could be whoever I wanted. There was a lot of people there that I didn't know.
Right.
And what I end up and let me go back before we get into that, Mary, and even leading up to college. So my whole bailiwick was basketball. I was pretty good at sports my whole life, but I was really good at basketball as to where I was supposed to play in college, but I didn't. Okay. So any acceptance or, affirmation I got, validation I got was due to that. Okay. So, I'm going to college. I broke away from that, and I'm trying to come into my own again. I had that foundation, but I'm going to have to forge my own path. Now, I can't do everything exactly like my parents do. They came from a completely different time than I did. So it was a lot of searching. I mean, and it's good that I had my foundation to eventually come back to, but there's a lot of searching. I got to invent myself to be whoever I wanted. And I was able to get validation, right? That's when I started, partying. That's when I really started sleeping around. That's when I really started, alcohol and experimenting in drugs and being accepted, or at least, feeling that way. And that when you, in hindsight, all that stuff was fake anyway, but it felt like I was accepted, and in earnest. I did make some friends who are some lifelong friends, not many, a couple, but yeah. And that was the life. I went to school in Oklahoma freshman year, came back home. Sophomore year, went to junior college, and then I went to school in Denton. And it was more of the same really until my last year of college, where I woke up and said, I actually do want to graduate. So I'll probably be a better idea for me to go to class instead of sleeping in from all the partying. So I finally buckled down and got out. Mm-hmm. And that was that phase of life. It was a lot of discovery. And and we always look at kids that are in their early 20s, and I was there, and we were know-it-alls, right? We just thought we had everything figured out, and we look at those kids like, just let them experience life. Well, when I look back at my younger self, I did have some things figured out, you know.
So you thought
and
you had a few little things you was all that in the bag of
yeah, well, no, but I had some things figured out. I had some things figured out in life, and you know, and it, to me, it's just like the whole process of unlearning. It seems like most of the things that you get in society are to unlearn, to get you to ignore your intuition, to get you to believe that something else is right other than you. And I mean, I don't, for lack of a better way to say it, right? It is to get you off of who you are as a human being.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you look at the school system all the way through, from when you go to pre-primary to, doesn't matter, graduate, whatever the case may be, the point of that is not to grow you as a person, as a human being. The point of that is to grow you into a productive employee. So when you go to work, and you know, you'll hear people talk about, man, it seems like high school here, you know, the way people act. Well, that's because that's what you were that's what you're being taught to do, right? And so in that process, a lot of those things that are in you, that are innately in you, that I think God put in you, are basically taught out of you. There's something to be said about being analytical and pragmatic, but there's not enough attention paid to cultivating your intuition, in my opinion.
Okay. So let me go back a little bit. I hear where you are. I want to go back to basketball. Yeah. I heard something there. You said that that was your love. That was where you were. You received a lot of affirmation there. So you didn't play. Talk about that.
Not in college. You know, for the life of me, I try not to think about it too much, because I mean, you can't change the past, right? And I can look at it as a major regret, but then, you know, I am where I am for a reason, right? And I there's a chance you and I may have never even met had all that happened. But I don't know. There was a part of me, it was young, it was stupid in a way, but it was also part of my discovery. And I didn't really share that. I wanted to, like, when I went to school, when I went to college, my freshman year, I really didn't know anyone. And that, you know, I'm kind of a shy person, and which is weird because I can have a conversation with anyone, but inside I'm like shy, very, very leery of letting people get close to me. And I was forced to do that there. I was forced to meet people and have relationships in order to have any sort of social life at all. And part of my thinking of not playing was, can I be important without this? Like, can I just be important as Henry, not as Henry the basketball player? Because I mean, I got a lot of things because of that. I got grace in areas that I wouldn't have as I was not making the school money. I got off of certain things that I did because of that. And I, you know, part of me wanted this to really kind of test the waters, like, will I be loved and accepted for who I am? Right. And not what I do. So that was part of it.
Okay. So
in hindsight, you know, maybe wouldn't have made the same decision, but you know, you're not blessed with having, you know, the foresight of a 40-something-year-old when you're 18. You're just not. Right.
Absolutely.
You have to live it.
I think what I'm hearing is that, correct me if I'm wrong, during that time you were going through a measure of insecurity because of we all have it. We all have them. We have to recognize them and then try to deal with them. But so the insecurity from college and all that brought into where you are now.
Right.
So what are you going through right now? Do you still experience some insecurities? Talk about that. Share a couple of them with the folks.
Well, I mean, I can't tell my story without telling my story of sobriety, for one.
Go ahead. Do you think?
So I've been a year sober from alcohol. Now, where I am today, it's difficult where I am today. Let's
back up. So you say you have to tell your story of sobriety from where you're.
Oh gosh.
How did that begin before we tell where we are now? How did that begin? Talk about that.
How did the addiction begin, or how did the path of sobriety begin?
how did the addiction begin? Because that came first.
Oh, I mean, again, it started in college, right?
Okay.
But and I don't think that I really was an alcoholic. I may have been. I mean, I think it's knowing what I know now, it was inherent, but it wasn't it wasn't a major part of my life. I guess it was a major part of, I guess maybe it was a part of my social life, but that was the extent that it played, is that it was a part of my social life. You know what I mean? So if I'm around people partying, well, it delved into being by myself, not even caged in, drinking, not even want to, leave the house. But I mean, that's just the nature of the disease. It's very, very progressive and incremental, right? There are some people.
Subtle. And subtle.
It is very subtle, very subtle. And for some, I've heard stories of some, they took their first drink at 14 or 15 or so, and it was just, off to the races. That wasn't necessarily the case to me. It probably, it started getting progressively worse in my 30s. And then it got to the unmanageable about 3 or 4 years ago. And at that point in time, to be honest with you, I really wasn't trying to manage it. The place where I was despair. I had a good job. It was paying good. I didn't enjoy it because the culture that was there. I was single. It was just really midlife crisis hit me. I was driving to work one day, going to the job, and I was just having a conversation really with myself. Like, I did the same thing yesterday. I did the same thing the day before, and I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to get in the same car. I'm going to drive down the same road. I'm going to go to the same office and deal with the same bullshit people that I don't want to deal with. And then I'm going to come home or go to the bar and I just, at that point, I just kind of asked myself, or said to myself, there's got to be more to life than this. I wasn't seeing what that more to life was. And so that caused just a deep, deep depression.
Okay.
Right.
Talk about, you said despair. I want you to explain despair and depression. Give the good folks your definition of the despair that you were going through and the depression that led you into. Talk about some of your symptoms of going there.
Well, I mean, I described some of the things that led up to it. It seemed, it just seemed like the walls were closing in on me all the time. Like, if a person from the outside looking in would probably say, oh man, he's got it together. He's got everything going for him. But it wasn't like that. I mean, I could be the life of the party, but no one had any idea of the pain that was going on inside. And I hid behind smiles, and I hid behind jokes, and I hid behind parties, and I hid behind, being with women. I hid behind all that stuff. I hid behind alcohol.
Right.
And, you think I thought that I was just burying it, because that's really what it was. I just was numbing myself. Like, I didn't want to feel those feelings.
Right.
And that didn't work, because alcohol makes you feel it worse. And then I had another problem on top of that, to where, okay, well, my life is already unmanageable, and now alcohol's made it really even unmanageable, because I can't even manage this anymore. We got to the point where I could tell myself I didn't want to drink, and then didn't work. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Throughout my life, I could do that. I could be like, you know what? I need to take a break. I could stop for months, year, whatever. And then, I started realizing, no, I couldn't. I needed it. Right. I needed to feel normal. And it was that added to the misery, that added to the despair, to where, around this time last year, I'd say about a week or so ago last year, I wanted to die. I did not have anything to live for. You know what I mean? It was, I had plenty to live for. I just didn't feel that I did.
Right.
And that's what led me to where I am now. I was talking to a good friend of mine. I told him I just didn't want to, my life wasn't worth living anymore. He said, just hold on a minute. I'm going to call you back. And he picked up the phone and called my mom, apparently, because a few minutes later, unbeknownst to me, she was at my door. She told me to come with her. I went over to their home, and ended up having a conflict with my late father. So I was like, it's making it worse. I want to go back home. So my mom brought me back home. we sat in front of my house in her car and probably talked for about an hour. And I told her, I won't do anything. I promise you, I won't do anything tonight. You brought me home, I won't. And that's when I decided to seek help. And to be honest with you, the motivation may not be the best. It wasn't for me. I looked at what I had. I looked at my son. I looked at my young nephew, who was not quite 2 at the time, was 2 at the time. And I was looking at my parents and just felt that, again, I told you about the life that I had, the young life, and all that they gave and all that they sacrificed for me. I just felt that they deserved better. So I really, when I first sought out sobriety and getting help, it wasn't even for me. And so.
Let's just stop right there. This is good, because there are a lot of people out there too that are going through what you've already gone through. Mm-hmm. And I thank you for expressing those feelings, because they're real. They're real. I tell people all the time, your feelings are real.
Oh yeah.
You can't deny them, but you go by what you know and not by what you feel. And at this point, you weren't even able to go by what you knew, because it was so heavy and devastating on you. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And we want to hear how you got to where you are and what you went through and where you are now. And we're going to listen to that next week, y'all. So this is DTM Real Talk, and we're just doing what? Keeping it real.
Keeping it real.
Thanks for watching DTM Real Talk. Be sure to join us for more conversation. And oh yeah, don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe while you're there.